5 strategies that I would use if I started again in 2026. I want to talk about the year that I almost quit. Not because things were going badly, but because things were going, honestly, exactly the way everyone said they should. I was booking jobs, I was on set, working with names that most people only see in a cinema screen, and honestly, I was completely and utterly burned out. I felt almost like trapped by the industry, like a slave to it, which was really unfortunate because looking back, it was a dream, and ahead of time, it was my dream. Because I had built a successful career by every external measure without ever actually asking myself one critical question. Is this actually scalable? Because success at the wrong thing is just as dangerous as failure. The day I stopped and I sat down and I forced myself to actually think strategically about where this is actually going, that's when everything actually changed. So these are the 5 strategies that I'd use from day one if I started again in 2026. Not to work harder, but honestly to build smarter. And this is applicable across most industries, certainly content creation and social media. I'm Sam Parham, founder of 1DS Collective. Before the agency, before all of the brand work and all of the awards and things that we've achieved through all of our social media and content creation, I was literally flying through the air on wire rigs, basically on Hollywood film sets. And here's what being a stuntman teaches you about business, right? Your body has an expiry date. Your strategy doesn't have to though, right? At some point, no matter how good you are, you have to build something that works without you physically doing it every single day. And that shift from operator to architect is the single most valuable transition that I've ever made, and honestly, that you could. It's the transition I now literally help brands, personal brands, D2C brands, whatever, going through that within the strategies and recommendations that we make through 1DS Collective. So these 5 strategies are exactly how I would make that shift if I was starting again today. So let's go. Strategy 1, diagnose the real problem first. And I put emphasis on real. Before you spend another dollar, before you run another campaign or hire another person, get brutally honest about what is actually holding your business back. Every stuck business is stuck for typically one of 5 reasons, okay? Leads, conversions, capacity, talent, or cash. One of those, if not a couple, are going to resonate with you, right? One of those is your real bottleneck. And most owners misidentify which one. And then they just throw money at the problem for years, typically. Now, I worked with a business owner spending $25,000 a month on paid ads. Not a huge amount, but they were convinced that they had a lead problem. The spend was enough to generate the leads that they should have been getting. It's a pretty low ticket offer. So when we pulled the numbers, they actually had plenty of leads coming in. What they didn't have was a sales process that could actually close them. Their conversion rate sat at 9% in an industry where the benchmark was closer to 25%. It shouldn't have been a huge barrier to entry to get that conversion. Every ad dollar was being poured into a pipeline with a hole at the bottom. Now, typically we use the analogy, get water in the pipes, to be able to see where those holes are. It's almost like they had the water in the pipes, but they didn't see where the hole was. They were either ignorant to it, they weren't looking for it correctly, or they were just busy focusing, throwing cash at something else. So we paused the ad spend. We fixed the sales process. That was it, nothing else. Yet once that took place, revenue increased by 22% within 30 days. That business had spent hundreds of thousands solving a problem that didn't exist because no one stopped to find where the real breakdown was. So, for us, week 1 assignment, and I recommend you do this, pull the last 90 days of data, walk every stage, the customer journey, understand it inside out, find where deals fall apart and that money disappears, because that's where your real constraint is. Fix that first. Everything else is noise. Okay, that's a big one. That's why I start with that being the first strategy. Strategy number 2, fix your margins before you scale. You will be amazed at how many times we see this. People think that their offer and the revenue attached to it is looking good, but they're not taking a look at the back end and seeing, well, what's the costs to actually service this, right? Costs of goods sold. How much is that margin from revenue to what we need to spend to fulfill? See, business owners love leading with revenue. We all do. We're all guilty of it. Oh, we did $10 million last year. But if your margin is 3%, you could run a $3 million business with the correct margins, less overhead, less chaos, and still take home way more money with half, probably a fraction of the stress. See, revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity. That's the saying. Scaling broken margins is not growth, yet a lot of businesses fall into this trap. It's like building a bigger version of a broken machine. And we've seen many brands do this. Throw more money at the problem, get more revenue in, only to lose more money on the back end because their margins are so low, or in some instances, upside down. A service business came to us, they were generating 4.5 million annually. Looked like success on the front end, right? They had a big name attached to it as well. But when we broke down the numbers, the core service ran at an 11% margin. 2 secondary offers that they had were actually losing money on every transaction, even when they converted. And yet the owner was taking home less than some of their own employees were, and trying to fix it by simply just bringing more clients in. We need more sales, need more sales. They didn't need more sales. They were just losing money faster every time they brought new clients in. So we restructured pricing, we cut the 2 loss-making offers, and we repositioned the core service. Profit nearly doubled within 3 months. It was the same team, same product, to be honest with you, and of course the same market. Between days 7 and 21, audit every offer. Know your actual margin after all the costs. The amount of times people come to us and they tell us the price to work with them or the price of their product or service. But then as soon as you say, well, what's the margin after the costs? That's where they get lost because they're too busy looking at that top line. So this is an important one. Eliminate anything consuming resources without producing real profit. And if you've been avoiding a price increase, this often happens too, right? Undercharging isn't humility. That in and of itself is a slow leak. So look at, can I increase prices? That's also very often an easy, quick, and real solve. Okay, strategy number 3, make your offer undeniable. This is a big one. If every sales conversation turns into a negotiation, problem might not be the product itself, it's the packaging around it. Right? You know you've got a good product, you know you've got a good service, yet you're meeting these objections and having to turn every single stage into a deep negotiation. That's probably the packaging, right? A B2B company came to us and genuinely the product was excellent, right? Better results, strong track record than anyone else that we'd seen in their space. But their close rate was where the issue was, because every conversation became a price fight. And they're also then having to look at each one individually, which creates all of these problems back end when it comes to invoicing and tracking. So when we looked at what they were presenting to the buyers, to us, the issue was obvious. It was immediate. A product, a number, and the words, trust us. So no guarantee, no defined outcomes, KPIs, right? No risk reversal. Customer psychology does not work that way. It's just that simple. We rebuilt the offer around the transformation. We added a 90-day performance guarantee. We restructured payment terms for people. We bundled implementation support, defined specific ROI a client should expect, attached that to specific KPIs. The product never changed, right? It was just the offer and the packaging around it that changed completely. And of course, as you would imagine, close rates improved massively. Deal size went up. They even then were able, at least in their mind finally, to raise their prices too. And so they started winning more clients even when they did all of that. Because when perceived risk goes down, people are far more willing to pay, right? So after the initial strategies, we would then move to this stage of asking yourself, have you made the decision feel easy for your buyer? I often say this when I'm on a call, right? I often say to them, it's a no-brainer. We have created this to be a no-brainer. We know that. I'm not saying it psychologically to manipulate them or trick them into thinking that. I'm saying it after justifying it, right? Like, I know you're not going to be able to come to me with many objections because I've already packaged this in such a way that anything that you would have previously objected to, I've gotten ahead of. Oh, well, what if this? Well, that's all covered in our pricing, guarantee that we provide to you. Oh, well, I want to make sure that I reach a certain number of followers. Yeah. And we have strategies that we've talked about to make sure that we can damn near guarantee that. And if we don't achieve those things, we have things in place so that you can de-risk it, right? It is a no-brainer at that point. The service was the same. The product never changed. It's just the packaging. So make sure that you nail that. Strategy number 4, build a team that performs and doesn't just show up. I promise you, 1DS Collective has been around for over a decade now, and I've had multiple businesses prior to and alongside. We've built numerous teams of 10 people, 40 people, 50 people. Our agency right now has collectively probably about 60 people, right? Growth requires people, but the wrong people or the right people in unclear roles will slow your business down faster than almost anything else. And I've seen it firsthand. In fact, a company came to us with 40% annual staff turnover. And some industries, by the way, I should preface this, some industries just naturally have higher staff turnover. We work a lot in the fitness and health industry. We experience it with some of our gym clients, for example. The boots on the ground in the gyms, it's just notoriously high for staff turnover. However, at least getting a benchmark of understanding industry expectations around that can allow you to understand if you're over-indexing or not, right? And in this instance, they were finding themselves in a situation where they were constantly hiring, constantly training, constantly starting over. And when we dug into the root cause in this one, it wasn't compensation. It wasn't a money thing. It wasn't even a cultural thing, right? They had a good culture, I would argue. It was actually the clarity that was the issue. When we went into the roles and responsibilities, that's where it got really ambiguous. It was very vague. Expectations weren't defined. New hires had no real sense of what success looked like, so they kind of guessed and made mistakes, got frustrated, and inevitably as a result of that left. Good people aren't going to stay in chaotic environments. Now, some level of chaos is natural in all businesses, and I promise you, I've seen $1 million annual revenue businesses all the way to $100+ million annual revenue businesses. Chaos exists everywhere, but it's about creating clarity within it all, right? We built the example I'm giving you, we rebuilt the entire onboarding process from the ground up. Wasn't necessarily part of our role coming in. We were focusing on communications and strategy. But what we noticed is that the ROI that was going to help them out here, simply by just helping them with their onboarding process, was going to be exponential. And sure enough, it was. Every role got a clear scorecard, specific responsibilities, defined metrics. We like to do 30, 60, 90-day roadmaps, create concrete milestones within those, right? We also introduced, yes, AI tools to handle like first pass screening, interview scheduling, freeing up the leadership to focus on talent development instead of like drowning in all the admin and the bullshit. And as a result, turnover dropped, right? In fact, it dropped to under 10%, which was really, really good in their industry. So like before your next hire, ask yourself, as ever, 3 questions, right? Can you describe this role in specific measurable terms? What does success look like 30, 60, 90? And what metrics will this person personally own, right? If those answers aren't clear, and they need to be clear to the individual that you're bringing in, don't make the hire, right? Those need to be crystal clear. Massive. Okay. Strategy number 5, install accountability and then cut what isn't working. Every bit of progress you've made can disappear if accountability is not built into how your business operates. A company came to us with a team everyone genuinely liked, right? Great energy, positive culture, super cool people. But they had one significant problem in this instance. No one was actually hitting their targets. Revenue had been flat for 2 consecutive quarters, and when it came up, no one owned it. Everyone had an explanation and a reason and an excuse, right? And most of those pointed outward. The culture had then become so focused on staying comfortable that standards quietly disappeared. There wasn't any scorecards. There wasn't any weekly reviews, right? No ownership of outcomes, accountability. And when there's no scoreboard, people default to just staying busy, looking busy. Busy is not the same as performing. We talked about this before. So we installed a simple weekly operating rhythm. Every role got a scorecard tied to 2 to sort of 5 key metrics, KPIs. Every week, the team reviewed those numbers together openly, without blame, total clarity. And here is what we committed to. Here's what happened, right? Here is what changes next week. There's loads of different frameworks that you can introduce around this, but it really doesn't have to be that complex, right? In that instance, within 60 days, the team was outperforming their previous best quarter, right? Same people, same product, same. It's unsurprising though, right? You just need to attach some metrics, give people some scorecards, make sure that there's clarity and ownership and accountability. And then let's just move to the final piece, because without this portion, the other things kind of become a little less relevant, right? Because we've seen a lot when we talk about numbers and we say, hey, what are your revenues? What is the cost of goods sold? What are your margins? What does that all look like? Typically people, I don't know if it's ego driven or where it's coming from, but they're plucking numbers or they're rounding up the numbers that they want to make sound and feel better, right? But you've got to be ruthless with your numbers, right? We've worked with so many different businesses. I'll give you another example. We worked with one business running 6 marketing channels. They had 4 different product lines, but none of them were growing, right? And when we pulled the data, devil's in the data, 65% of the revenue came from one service through one channel. And I have these conversations with business owners all the time. I've been guilty of chasing the squirrels, right? Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. Everything else in this instance wasn't diversification, which is what they'd kind of justified it as in their head. We're de-risking, we're diversifying. So no, you're distracting. You are literally distracting yourself. In that instance, we literally cut 3 channels, removed 2 entire product lines, and redirected every resource into what was already working. And of course, you don't even need me to tell you, revenue grew, right? The focus compounded. So stop stacking new initiatives on top of old ones. Remove all the dead weight. Just repeat what works deliberately without any distraction. Max out on those things. People get so quick to try and look for the next big thing. We see this in social media so many times. We look at the same lens with content strategy, because you'll have topics or even just specific videos that perform really, really well. And again, I don't know if it's the ego, but the first thing our clients often do is like, okay, what next? What's a new idea we can think of? And it's like, hang on, this idea and this topic in this video got over 1 million views. Wouldn't we want to double down on that? It's already working. It's the classic saying, don't fix what ain't broke. But again, might be an ego thing. Not sure. It's very natural, and people fall into the trap of this. They start creating distractions for themselves. So watch out for that. That's honestly a game changer. It really is. So anyway, the main thing with all of these strategies is to continue to deploy, right? Go back to strategy 1. Diagnose your constraint again. Because if you did it right, it will have shifted, right? And then that shift means your business's trajectory is now moving in the right direction. That's what compounding growth ultimately looks like. So it's not a lucky break, not perfect timing, right? A business built deliberately, strategy by strategy, decision by decision. That's what we're looking for. And in addition to this, it's worth noting, if you're struggling with any of these things, reach out to us, right? We focus on content and social, strategy and deployment. That's where we shine. But ultimately, we're scaling brands. We're scaling personal brands. We're scaling D2C brands. So all of the information's below. Hopefully, this has given you some clarity and some food for thought. If it has, I'd appreciate a subscribe, hit the like button. At the end of the day, we're here for real strategy, real execution, and real results. So I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.